How should we sleep? Humans are not sleeping the way nature intended. The number of sleep bouts, the duration of sleep, and when sleep occurs have all been comprehensively distorted by modernity. Throughout developed nations, most adults currently sleep in a monophasic pattern. That is, we try to take a long single bout of slumber at night, the average duration of which is now less than 7 hours. Visit cultures that are untouched by electricity, and you often see something rather different. Hunter-gatherer tribes such as the Gabra in northern Kenya or the San people in the Kalahari Desert, whose way of life has changed little over the past thousands of years, sleep in a biphasic pattern. Both these groups take a similarly longer sleep period at night, 7 to 8 hours of time in bed, achieving about 7 hours of sleep, followed by a 30 to 60-minute nap in the afternoon. There is also evidence for a mix of the two sleep patterns determined by time of year. Pre-industrial tribes such as the Hadza in northern Tanzania or the San of Namibia sleep in a biphasic pattern in the hotter summer months, incorporating a 30 to 40-minute nap at high noon. They then switch to a largely monophasic sleep pattern during the cool winter months. Even when sleeping in a monophasic pattern, the timing of slumber observed in pre-industrialized cultures is not that of our own. Contorted making, on average, these tribes people will fall asleep 2 to 3 hours after sunset, around 9 p.m. Their nighttime sleep bouts will come to an end just prior to or soon after dawn. Have you ever wondered about the meaning of the term midnight? It of course means the middle of the night, or more technically, the middle point of the solar cycle, and so it is for the sleep cycle of hunter-gatherer cultures and presumably all those that came before. Now, consider our cultural sleep norms. Midnight is no longer midnight. For many of us, midnight is usually the time when we consider checking our email one last time, and we know what often happens in the portraits thereafter. Compounding the problem, we do not then sleep any longer into the morning hours to accommodate these later sleep on set times. We cannot. Our circadian biology and the unstable early morning demands of a post-industrial way of life denies us the sleep we vitally need. At one time, we went to bed in the hours after dusk and woke up with the chickens. Now, many of us are still waking up with the chickens, but dusk is simply the time we are finishing up at the office, with much of the waking night to go. Moreover, few of us enjoy a full afternoon nap, further contributing to our state of sleep bankruptcy. The practice of biphasic sleep is not cultural in origin, however. It is deeply biological. All humans, irrespective to culture or geographical location, have a genetically hardwired dip in alertness that occurs in the mid-afternoon hours. Observe any post-lunch meeting around a boardroom table and this fact will become evidently clear. Like puppets whose control strings were let loose, then rapidly pulled taut, heads will start dipping, then quickly snap back upright. I'm sure you've experienced this blanket of drowsiness that seems to take hold of you mid-afternoon, as though your brain is heading toward an unusually early bedtime. Both you and the meeting attendees are falling prey to an evolutionarily imprinted lull in wakefulness that favors an afternoon nap, called the postprandial alertness dip, from the Latin prandium, meal. This brief descent from high-degree wakefulness to low-level alertness reflects an innate drive to be asleep and napping in the afternoon, and not working. It appears to be a normal part of the daily rhythm of life. Should you ever have to give a presentation at work, for your own sake and that of the conscious state of your listeners, if you can, avoid the mid-afternoon slot. What becomes clearly apparent when you step back from these details is that modern society has discovered us from what should be a preordained arrangement of biphasic sleep, one that our genetic code nevertheless tries to rekindle every afternoon. The separation from biphasic sleep occurred at or even before our shift from an agrarian existence to an industrial one. Anthropological studies of pre-industrial hunter-gatherers have also dispelled a popular myth about how humans should sleep. Around the close of the early modern era, circa late 17th and early 18th centuries, historical texts suggest that Western Europeans would take two long bouts of sleep at night, separated by several hours of wakefulness. Nestled in between these twin slabs of sleep, sometimes called first sleep and second sleep, they would read, write, pray, make love, and even socialize. This practice may very well have occurred during this moment in human history in the geographical region. Yet the fact that no pre-industrial cultures studied to date demonstrate a similar nightly split shift of sleep suggests that it is not the natural evolutionarily programmed form of human sleep. Rather, it appears to have been a cultural phenomenon that appeared and was popularized with the Western European migration. Furthermore, there is no biological rhythm of brain activity, neurochemical activity, or metabolic activity that would hint at a human desire to wake up for several hours in the middle of the night. Instead, the true pattern of biphasic sleep, for which there is anthropological, biological, and genetic evidence, and which remains measurable in all human beings today, is one consistent of a longer bout of continuous sleep at night followed by a shorter mid-afternoon nap. Accepting that this is our natural pattern of slumber, can we ever know for certain what types of health consequences have been caused by our abandonment of biphasic sleep? Biphasic sleep is still observed in several siesta cultures throughout the world, including regions of South America and Mediterranean or Europe. When I was a child in the 1980s, I went on vacation to Greece with my family. As we walked the streets of the major metropolitan Greek cities we visited, there were signs hanging in storefront windows that were very different from those I was used to back in England. They stated open from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., closed from 1 to 5 p.m., open 5 to 9 p.m. Today, few of those signs remain in windows of shops throughout Greece. Prior to the turn of the millennium, there was increasing pressure to abandon the siesta-like practice in Greece. A team of researchers from Harvard University School of Public Health decided to quantify the health consequences of this radical change in more than 23,000 Greek adults, which contained men and women ranging in age from 20 to 83 years old. The researchers focused on cardiovascular outcomes, tracking the group across a 6-year period as the siesta practice came to an end for many of them. As with countless Greek tragedies, the end result was heartbreaking, but here, in the most serious literal way, none of the individuals had a history of coronary heart disease or stroke at the start of the study, indicating the absence of cardiovascular ill health. However, those that abandoned regular siestas went on to suffer a 37% increased risk of death from heart disease across the 6-year period, relative to those who maintained regular daytime naps. The effect was especially strong in working men, where the ensuing mortality risk of not napping increased by well over 60%. Apparent from this remarkable study is this fact: when we are cleaved from the innate practice of biphasic sleep, our lives are shortened. It is perhaps unsurprising that in the small enclaves of Greece where siestas still remain intact, such as the island of Icaria, men are nearly 4 times as likely to reach the age of 90 as American males. These napping communities have sometimes been described as the place where people forget to die. From a prescription written long hour in our ancestral genetic code, the practice of natural biphasic sleep and a healthy diet appear to be the keys to a long sustained life. We are special. Sleep, as you can now appreciate, is a unifying feature across the animal kingdom, yet within and between species there is remarkable diversity in amounts, for example time, form, for example half-brain, whole brain, and pattern monophasic, biphasic, polyphasic. But are we humans special in our sleep profile, at least in its pure form when unmolested by modernity? Much has been written about the uniqueness of Homo sapien in other domains, our cognition, creativity, culture, and the size and shape of our brain. Is there anything similarly exceptional about our nightly slumber? If so, could this unique sleep be an unrecognized cause of these aforementioned accomplishments that we prize are so distinctly human? The justification of our hominid name, Homo sapiens, Latin derivative, wise person? As it turns out, we humans are special when it comes to sleep compared to all the New World monkeys, as well as apes, such as some chimpanzees, orangutans, and gorillas. Human sleep sticks out like the proverbial sore thumb. The total amount of time we spend asleep is markedly shorter than all other primates, 8 hours relative to the 10 to 15 hours of sleep observed in all other primates. Yet, we have disproportionate amounts of REM sleep, the stage in which we dream. Between 20 and 25% of our sleep time is dedicated to REM sleep dreaming, compared to an average of only 9% across all other primates. We are the anomalous data point when it comes to sleep time and dream time relative to all other monkeys and apes. To understand how and why our sleep is so different is to understand the evolution of ape to man from tree to ground. Humans are exclusive terrestrial sleepers. We catch our Z's lying on the ground, or sometimes rest a little of it on beds. Other primates will sleep arboreally, on branches, or in nests. Only occasionally will other primates come out of trees to sleep on the ground. Great apes, for example, will build an entirely new tree-top sleep nest or platform every single night. Imagine having to set aside several hours each evening after dinner to construct a new IKEA bed frame before you can sleep. Sleeping in trees was an evolutionary wise idea up to a point. It provided safe haven from large ground-hunting predators, such as hyenas and small blood-sucking arthropods, including lice, fleas, and ticks. But when sleeping 20 to 50 feet up in the air, one has to be careful. Become too relaxed in your sleep that when slouched on a branch or in a nest, and a dangling limb may be all the invitation gravity needs to bring you hurtling down to earth in a life-ending fall, removing you from the gene pool. This is especially true for the stage of REM sleep, in which the brain completely paralyzes all voluntary muscles of the body, leaving you utterly limp, a literal bag of bones with no tension in your muscles. I'm sure you have never tried to rest a full bag of groceries on a tree branch, but I can assure you it's far from easy. Even if you manage the delicate balance act for a moment, it doesn't last long. This body balancing act was the challenge and danger of tree sleeping for our primate forebears, and it markedly constrained their sleep. Homo erectus, the predecessor of Homo sapiens, was the first obligate biped walking freely upright on two legs. We believe that Homo erectus was also the first dedicated ground sleeper. Shorter arms and an upright stance made tree living and sleeping very unlikely. How did Homo erectus, and by inference Homo sapiens, survive in the predator-rich ground-sleeping environments when leopards, hyenas, and saber-toothed tigers, all of which can hunt at night, are on the prowl and terrestrial bloodsuckers abound? Part of the answer is fire. While there remains some debates, many believe that Homo erectus was the first to use fire, and fire was one of the most important catalysts, if not the most important, that enabled us to come out of the trees and live on terra firma. Fire is also one of the best explanations for how we were able to sleep safely on the ground. Fire would deter large carnivores, while the smoke provided an ingenious form of nighttime fumigation, repelling small insects ever keen to bite into our epidermis. Fire was no perfect solution, however, and ground sleeping would have remained risky. The evolutionary pressure to become qualitatively more efficient in how we sleep therefore developed. Any Homo erectus capable of accomplishing more efficient sleep would likely have been favored in survival and selection. Evolution saw to it that our ancient form of sleep became somewhat shorter in duration, yet increased in intensity, especially by enriching the amount of REM sleep we packed into the night. In fact, as is so often the case with modern nature's brilliance, the problem became part of the solution. In other words, the act of sleeping on solid ground and not on a precarious tree branch was the for the enriched and enhanced amounts of REM sleep that developed, while the amount of time spent asleep was able to modestly decrease. When sleeping on the ground, there's no more risk of falling. For the first time in our evolution, hominids could assume all the body immobilized REM sleep dreaming they wanted, and not worry about the lasso of gravity wiping them down from treetops. Our sleep therefore became concentrated, shorter and more consolidated in duration, packed aplenty with high-quality sleep, and not just any time of sleep, but REM sleep that bathed a brain rapidly accelerating in complexity and connectivity. There are species that have more total REM time than hominids, but there are none who power up and lavish such vast proportions of REM sleep onto such a complex, richly interconnected brain as we Homo sapiens do. From these clues, I offer a theorem. The tree-to-ground re-engineering of sleep was a key trigger that rocked Homo sapiens to the top of evolution's lofty pyramid. At least two features define human beings relative to other primates. I posit that both have been beneficially and causally shaped by the hand of sleep, and specifically our intense degree of REM sleep relative to all other mammals. One, our degree of sociocultural complexity, and two, our cognitive intelligence. REM sleep and the act of dreaming itself lubricates both of these human traits. To the first of these points, we have discovered that REM sleep exquisitely recalibrates and fine-tunes the emotional circuits of the human brain, discussed in detail in part 3 of the book. In this capacity, REM sleep may very well have accelerated the richness and rational control of our initially primitive emotions. A shift that I propose critically contributed to the rapid rise of Homo sapiens to dominance over all other species in key ways. We know, for example, that REM sleep increases our ability to recognize and therefore successfully navigate the kaleidoscope of socio-emotional signals that are abundant in human culture, such as overt and covert facial expressions, major and minor bodily gestures, and even mass group behavior. One only needs to consider disorders such as autism to see how challenging and different a social existence can be without these emotional navigation abilities being fully intact. Related, this REM sleep gift of facilitating accurate recognition and comprehension allows us to make more intelligent decisions and actions as a consequence. More specifically, the cool-headed ability to regulate our emotions each day, a key to what we call emotional IQ, depends on getting sufficient REM sleep night after night. If your mind immediately jumped to particularly colleagues, friends, and public figures who lack these traits, you may well wonder about how much sleep, especially late morning REM-rich sleep, they are getting. Second, and more critical, if you multiply these individual benefits within and across groups and tribes, all of which are experiencing an ever increasing intensity and richness of REM sleep over millennia, we can start to see how this nightly REM sleep recalibration of our emotional brains could have scaled rapidly and exponentially. From this REM sleep enhanced emotional IQ emerged a new and far more sophisticated form of hominid socioecology across vast collectives, one that helped enable the creation of large, emotionally astute, stable, highly bonded, and intensely social communities of humans. I will go a step further and suggest that this is the most influential function of REM sleep in mammals. Perhaps the most influential function of all types of sleep in all mammals, and even the most eminent advantage ever gifted by sleep in the annals of all planetary life. The adaptive benefits conferred by complex emotional processing are truly monumental, and so often overlooked. We humans can instantiate vast numbers of emotions in our embodied brains and thereafter deeply experience and even regulate those emotions. Moreover, we can recognize and help shape the emotions of others. Through both of these intra and interpersonal processes, we can forge the types of cooperative alliances that are necessary to establish large social groups, and beyond groups, entire societies brimming with powerful structures and ideologies. What may at first blush have seemed like a modest asset award by REM sleep to a single individual is, I believe, one of the most valuable commodities ensuring the survival and dominance of our species as a collective. The second evolutionary contribution that the REM sleep dreaming state fuels is creativity, and REM sleep helps transform and make safe newly learned information into long-term storage sites on the brain of the brain. But it is REM sleep that takes these freshly minted memories and begins collating them with the entire back catalogue of your life's autobiography. These mnemonic collisions during REM sleep spark new creative insights as novelists are are forged between unrelated pieces of information. Sleep cycle by sleep cycle, REM sleep helps construct vast associative networks of information within the brain. REM sleep can even take a step back, so to speak, and divine overarching insights and gists, something akin to general knowledge. That is what a collection of information means as a whole, not just an inert back catalogue of facts. We can awake the next morning with new solutions to previously intractable problems, or even be infused with radically new and original ideas. Adding then to the opulent and domineering socio-emotional fabric that REM sleep helps weave across the masses came the second creativity benefits of dream sleep. We should cautiously revere how superior our hominid ingenuity is relative to that of any of our closest rivals, primate to other. The chimpanzees, our nearest living primate relatives, have been around approximately 5 million years longer than we have. Some of the great apes preceded us by at least 10 million years. Despite aeons of opportunity time, neither species has visited the moon, created computers, or developed vaccines. Humbly, we humans have. Sleep, especially REM sleep and the act of dreaming, is a attainable yet underappreciated factor underlying many elements that form our unique human ingenuity and accomplishments just as much as language or tool use. Indeed, there is even evidence that sleep causally shapes both these latter traits as well. Nevertheless, the superior emotional or brain gifts that REM sleep affords should be considered more influential in defining our hominid success than the second benefits of inspiring creativity. Creativity is an evolutionary powerful tool, yes, but it is largely limited to an individual. Unless creative, ingenious solutions can be shared between individuals through the emotionally rich pro-social bonds and cooperative relationships that REM sleep fosters, then creativity is far more likely to remain fixed within an individual rather than spread to the masses. Now we have appreciated that I believe to be a classic, self-fulfilling, positive cycle of evolution. Our shift from tree to ground sleeping instigated an ever more bountiful amount of relative REM sleep compared with other primates. And from this bounty emerged a sleep increase in cognitive creativity, emotional intelligence, and thus social complexity. This, alongside our increasingly dense, interconnected brains, led to improved daily and nightly survival strategies. In turn, the harder we work, those increasingly developed emotional and creative circuits of the brain during the day, the greater was our need to service and recalibrate these ever-demanding neural systems at night with more REM sleep. As this positive feedback loop took hold in exponential fashion, we formed, organized, maintained, and deliberatively shaped ever larger social groups. The rapidly increasing in creative abilities could thus be spread more efficiently and rapidly, and even improved by that ever increasing amount of hominid REM sleep that enhances emotional and social sophistication. REM sleep dreaming therefore represents a attainable new contributing factor among others that led to our astonishingly rapid evolutionary rise to power, for better and worse, a new sleep-fueled, globally dominant social superclass.